Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So we have been talking about Telcoin on the channel for a while now. And, even right now, as we do really kind of see the market get hit in a big way through the tariff and trade war talks, we are still focused on projects continuing to expand, continuing to make a lot of noise, even though, a lot of people are not there to actually hear it. Telcoin is a project that just continues to make a lot of noise. I've been talking about it and focused on the project for years now because of, how much the team has been building. Even back in 2022, I still remember them, building in the middle of a bear market, and especially into 2023, they continued to make a lot of noise. And today, well, it's no different. Even though the market has been turbulent and even though the market has been pretty bearish, Telcoin continues to become a big piece of, the crypto revolution, essentially. But let's actually dive on in and let's not waste any time. We're proud to share that TEL will soon be listed on CoinStore Exchange, a globally recognized A-rated exchange operating in 170 plus countries, including the US, with 1 billion in daily trading volume. TEL will be supported on Ethereum and Polygon, enabling a seamless bridge between the exchange and the Telcoin application network. This is great to see. I mean, listen, they're not like a massive exchange. They're pretty big, don't get me wrong. But when we actually think about the numbers behind them, 167,000 followers, they're not like a huge exchange. I actually look forward to seeing a lot more T1 listings for Telcoin and some bigger exchanges actually listing Telcoin as well. But this listing isn't just a win, it's the result of a formal governance process proposed via the Telcoin Improvement Proposal Exchange listings, approved by the elected platform council, implemented by the Telcoin Association, structured under a Swiss Verein, a legal framework which lends itself to use in decentralized networks. With new support from both Ethereum and Polygon, TEL holders can move seamlessly between CoinStore and Telcoin integrated apps, including for US users. Compliance first approach, expanding the reach of the Telcoin platform, designed for real-world use and adoption. This step forward reflects the Telcoin Association's commitment to sustainable decentralized growth. And I love to see this. I think that this is great. And I do think that we will start to see more exchange listings throughout the year for Telcoin as well, because they are becoming a much bigger piece of crypto. Now, talking more so about that, we do have a few events that are, happening now, which is like, for example, Paris Block Week, which Telcoin is going to be at. Now, this already officially started. It started yesterday, but it's ongoing still. And I'm sure that Telcoin is making a lot of noise there as well. But also, if we just go back a few weeks ago, Telcoin was also making a lot of noise at the DC Blockchain Summit, discussing digital cash and even stablecoin regulation. And we do know that Telcoin did recently release their digital cash solution, which includes stablecoins in a huge way. In fact, it's like a huge move around stablecoins for Telcoin. And we also did get a glimpse at the future around Telcoin launching their own stablecoins, which I'm very excited about. But on top of this, they did update us on the 31st, which was a productive visit to Washington, D.C. last week. In addition to great meetings with the Fed, the CFTC, the CSBS, and the House Financial Services Committee, the Telcoin team attended the DC Blockchain Summit, where CEO spoke on the future of banking panel. And yeah, Paul was there in a big way. I was actually very excited to see a few of the updates from this, and it really does put a spotlight on how big of a name Telcoin actually is becoming around not just crypto, but also even TradFi, converging with DeFi. I think that this is great to see. And the fact that these events are happening with Telcoin included, I want you guys to understand that these events are very good for community engagement, community growth, and also to get the word out around Telcoin and potentially even close some deals on some networking, on some partnerships, etc. But outside of that, we go back to the 21st of February, where we did see Telcoin Bank, a digital asset bank, is set to become the first real bridge between traditional finance and crypto, following conditional approval from the Nebraska Department of Banking and Finance. Now, I bring this back up because of this post over here, which is Nebraska is leading a new era of digital payments by allowing state-chartered digital asset banks that can mint stablecoins. It's a first in the nation approach, and our message to the industry is simple. Nebraska is open for your business. This is a huge move because this is coming from the governor of Nebraska, and we have over here Telcoin Bank, a digital asset bank, and we have over here that digital asset banks that can mint stablecoins. With their digital cash announcement, they are a a stablecoin minter essentially at this point. And yes, we do have the quoted post from Telcoin where they are saying Telcoin is the first firm to be approved for a state-chartered digital asset depository under the framework in Nebraska, positioning us to be the first regulated bank issuer of stablecoins. Guys, I think that this is awesome to see. And this is why I keep putting a spotlight on Telcoin, because what they are doing right now is going unnoticed. A lot of people are not actually focused on what Telcoin is doing, which is, in my opinion, even more exciting, because I know that once people start to catch on to what Telcoin is doing, at that point, they'll be FOMOing in at much higher prices, because right now is probably one of the best times to be focused on projects like Telcoin that are continuing to build and make a lot of noise, even though there's not a lot of people trying to listen right now because of how the market has been performing. But on top of this, right, we also go over here to this post, which was Nebraska has been a leader in digital assets. At Tuesday's hearing, I talked about the importance of ensuring that we maintain a state pathway for stablecoin regulation. Now, this is from Mike Flood, but we have over here Paul from Telcoin, the founder and CEO, excited to be working closely with Financial Services Committee this month on final stablecoin legislation that will extend the current dual regulator interstate banking system to stablecoin issuance, allowing state-level innovation and automatic nationwide coverage. Hashtag digital cash. This is huge. Now listen closely to this video.
I thank the gentleman from Nebraska, and also the chairman of the Housing and Insurance Subcommittee, Mr. Flood, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. My interest in stablecoins goes back to the work I did in the Nebraska unicameral legislature on this very issue. After my bill entitled the Nebraska Financial Innovation Act passed, Nebraska became the second state to have a regulatory structure for a new kind of state-chartered bank called a digital asset depository institution. A Nebraska digital asset depository institution can issue stablecoins, which puts my state in a unique position as it relates to the broader debate about a state pathway within this bill. Due to the laws in our state, I'm interested in the state pathway specifically as it relates to state-chartered bank issuers. My hope is that any federal stablecoin legislation will work hand in glove with our Nebraska Department of Banking and Finance and the work they are already taking on these very issues, and I appreciate the continued dialogue we've had with Chairman Hill and his team on ensuring that we strike just the right balance. Mr. Gwynn, can you please walk through your understanding of how the Stable Act would regulate a state-chartered bank subsidiary that issues a stablecoin pursuant to the bill's state pathway?
So as I understand it, there's sort of two possible regulatory frameworks. One is 4A, which sets federal standards, and then 4B that would allow a state to have an alternative regulatory regime that would satisfy or exceed those standards. So it's a little bit more restrictive than the dual banking system, where states have a little bit more freedom because the federal standards simply, it's not that they don't apply, it's that they cover a much narrower field of applicability, whereas here the standards are pretty comprehensive.
Good answer, because you answered my second question about how it compares to the dual banking system, so thank you. I'd like to emphasize a few things about the state pathway before moving on to my next question. One is that state regulators must get a certification approved by the Treasury, as you've said, showing that their state regime is in line with the bill's federal requirements or exceeding the federal requirements. In addition, there is an exigent circumstances provision in the bill that would allow a federal regulator to step in over a state regulator and enforce directly on state issuers in certain circumstances. And quite honestly, this has concerned me, just what is an exigent circumstance, but in other words, even the state pathway has a very extensive federal involvement. With that caveat, I'd like to highlight a line in Mr. Cascarilla's testimony, which said the following as it related to cross-border regulation of state-chartered stablecoin issuers. And I quote, "Primary oversight should remain with state-chartered issuers, home state regulator, avoiding redundant regulatory burdens," end quote. Mr. Cascarilla, if a state pathway for insurance doesn't include some form of regulatory primacy for the rules of their home state regulator, would state issuers juggling several state regulatory laws be at a disadvantage relative to issuers that receive a federal charter?
Yes, they would, and I think that is the exact point, which is today, as a state issuer, you have to juggle a number of different state approvals and exams, and that is a conflicting process that takes up a lot of resources and could certainly snowball in a situation like this.
I appreciate that answer. And let me just say this, does anybody in this room not think that the New York DFS could handle this? I mean, we have to respect the rights of states to have their own regulatory regime. Mr. Gwynn, can you comment on the same question? You know, juggling all these different regulators, does it put the state chartered issuers at a disadvantage?
So look, we get this question all the time from state issuers as a law firm. There's always a choice, but having a choice between a state and a federal regulatory authority is a good choice to have. And so it may well be that a particular institution decides, I have more freedom to innovate if I'm regulated by a state, even if I have to go through the headache of looking at all these different state laws. Whereas if I go with a national regulatory, then it will be preempted.
Totally agree. And let's remember, what makes America the best financial market in the world, what makes us so successful, is that we have diversity in our banking. We have the GSIBs, we have the regional banks, we have the community banks, we have the federal chartered, we have the state chartered, and we have innovation. When you control all of that, you get Europe with a couple of banks and a couple of board of directors that are making the decisions for every consumer on the continent. And so let's celebrate what makes America strong by encouraging diversity, relying on states to manage and regulate state issuers of stablecoins with appropriate safeguards. I want to compliment Chairman Hill, Brian Stile, Mr. Davidson, Allison, and
Now, as we do really kind of listen to these conversations, what gets me bullish about this, and I know that it might be a little bit boring, right? It was a 5-minute long video clip, but it's a 5-minute long video clip outlining how we need to embrace this space, how we need to allow states to make the decisions, and Nebraska is making their own decision here. In fact, Nebraska is embracing digital assets. It's embracing Telcoin. It's embracing stablecoins. And when we think about stablecoins themselves, right, we are starting to see stablecoin legislation growing at a very significant pace in the US. I wouldn't be surprised by the end of this year if we did have stablecoin legislation live and active in the US with full-on clarity for stablecoins. And this is only supporting and reinforcing the fact that Telcoin is becoming a massive player because of the announcements made recently. Like, if we actually go to Telcoin's website and we just go to digital cash, right? Under digital cash, we could see all of the stablecoins that are tied back to Telcoin that are available in the Telcoin wallet. We know that Telcoin, with their Telcoin Bank initiative, they want to launch their first, regulated bank issued digital dollar through their actual digital asset bank. Now, we don't know when this is going to be happening. They say that's coming in 2025. We don't know what's going to be happening here because they said that it's going to be issued by Telcoin Bank. So they need to officially have the Telcoin Bank set up, and then they can offer EUSD through Telcoin. Now, if this actually happens this year, same with the eEuro stablecoin that they want to launch as well. If all of this actually happens this year for Telcoin, I suspect that Telcoin is going to be spotlighted in a big way, not just from Congress, but also even around the US system. I think that Telcoin is probably one of the most overlooked and undervalued projects in the space simply because of the moves that are being made around Telcoin. But it's also at a perfect time that Telcoin is doing all of this because of the environment in the US. I mean, when we think about the regulatory environment, we know it's open now. We know that it's pro-crypto essentially. And we also know that there's an urgency to be first on crypto because every other nation out there in the world is starting to move forward on crypto. They want to embrace crypto in a big way. They want to become a crypto hub. If the US is serious about this, then they will start to actually engage with players like Telcoin. This is why I talk about Ripple a lot on this channel. This is why I talk about Hedera. These are US-based crypto companies that are, starting to innovate in a rapid pace. And same with Telcoin. Telcoin has been around for years now. A lot of people actually don't know about Telcoin, even though it's been around for, like almost 10 years or so. So as we do really kind of think about, what's happening here, I do think that people are going to miss the Telcoin train in a big way and regret it, because I think that this is one of those projects that will shock a lot of people once they start to realize what's been being built, what's happening behind Telcoin, and how it all aligns perfectly with the push on digital assets in the US. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely have a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.